Have you ever dreamed of just escaping? Getting away from it all? I'm talking about leaving behind the postage stamp-sized lawns, the cookie-cutter houses, and most importantly, the endless rules. For me, that dream had a name. A ranch. A big, sprawling piece of land where the only opinion that mattered was my own. I pictured wide-open skies, the freedom to do what I wanted, when I wanted, and the sweet, sweet sound of, well, nothing. Just peace and quiet. No more nosy neighbors, no more passive-aggressive notes, and definitely no more HOA, the Homeowners Association. Just saying the word sends a little shiver down my spine. I'd had my fill of them. You know the drill? Your grass is a quarter-inch too long, your trash can is visible from the street for 5 minutes too long, you painted your front door a shade of beige that wasn't on the pre-approved list of 50 identical beiges. It was a life of walking on eggshells, constantly worried about some arbitrary rule I might have unknowingly broken. The dream of the ranch was an escape from all that. It was about independence. It was about breathing room. So I did it. I saved every penny, spent months searching, and finally found the perfect spot. It wasn't a mega ranch out of a movie, but it was mine. Acres of rolling hills, a charming, if slightly rustic, old farmhouse, and a barn that had seen better days, but was filled with potential. The day I signed the papers was one of the happiest days of my life. I stood on my new porch, looked out over my land, and took the deepest, most satisfying breath of fresh air I'd had in years. This was it. No more rules, no more drama. Just me, my land, and my future. I spent the first few days in a state of pure bliss. I woke up with the sun, drank coffee on the porch, listening to the birds, and made plans. Big plans. A vegetable garden over there, maybe some chickens, fixing up the barn for a workshop. The possibilities felt as endless as the horizon. The silence was golden. For the first time, I felt truly at home, truly free. I thought to myself, this is what it's all about. This is the life. The nearest neighbor was a mile down a dirt road. What could possibly go wrong? I was about a week in, covered in dirt from trying to clear a patch for my future garden, when I saw a dust cloud on the horizon. A car was coming up my long driveway, a shiny, spotlessly clean SUV which looked completely out of place against the rustic backdrop. I figured it was a lost delivery driver or maybe a friendly neighbor coming to say hello. I wiped my hands on my jeans, put on a welcoming smile, and walked over as the car crunched to a halt on the gravel. The driver's side door opened, and out stepped a woman. She had perfectly coiffed hair, an immaculate pastel pantsuit, and a clipboard. A clipboard. My smile faltered. A cold, familiar dread started to creep up my spine. This didn't feel like a friendly welcome to the neighborhood visit. She marched towards me with an air of authority, her expensive-looking shoes ill-suited for the dusty ground. "Good morning," she said, her voice crisp and devoid of warmth. "I'm Karen from the Ranch Owners Covenant Committee." I must have just stared at her, dumbfounded. The what? The ranch owners who now? She didn't wait for a response. "I'm here to conduct your new owner orientation and initial property review." My brain was short-circuiting. Covenant Committee? That sounded suspiciously, terrifyingly like an HOA. I'm sorry," I stammered. "I think there's been a mistake. There's no HOA out here. That's kind of the whole point." She gave a thin, condescending smile. "Oh, we don't call it an HOA. That term is so suburban. We're a covenant committee. We're here to preserve the aesthetic and agricultural integrity of the community." She said community like it was a sacred word. I looked around at the vast empty landscape. Community? What community? She didn't miss a beat. She tapped her pen on her clipboard. "Now, let's get started. First item, I see you've started some digging." She gestured vaguely at my pathetic little garden patch. According to Section 4, subsection B of the covenants, any landscaping or soil disturbance over 10 square feet requires prior written approval from the committee. You'll need to submit a Form 7B, a soil impact report, and a 5-year planting plan. I was speechless. A 5-year plan for a tomato patch? This had to be a joke. A very, very elaborate prank. But the look on her face was deadly serious. Furthermore, she continued, her eyes scanning my property like a hawk, I noticed your barn. The state of the roof is in violation of Guideline 12C regarding structural and visual upkeep. You have 90 days to submit a restoration plan, including approved materials and a certified contractor's estimate. My dream was crumbling around me. The barn I saw as a charming project, she saw as a violation. The garden I saw as a source of fresh food, she saw as unapproved soil disturbance. This wasn't happening. I bought a ranch to escape this exact kind of nonsense. Look, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. With all due respect, I bought this land for freedom. I didn't sign up for a covenant committee. Karen raised a perfectly plucked eyebrow. It was in the fine print of your closing documents. It's legally binding. We all want the same thing here, to protect our property values and ensure a harmonious living environment. Harmonious. The word sounded like a threat. This was the exact corporate speak I had tried to leave behind. She was an HOA in a cowboy hat, a wolf in sheep's clothing. My paradise had a gatekeeper, and she was holding a clipboard. She continued her list of infractions. The color of my front door was not in the approved rustic palette. The old tire swing hanging from a sturdy oak was a potential liability and visual blight. My plan to get a couple of goats? Livestock requires a separate permit, a veterinary inspection, and proof of adequate fencing, which I can see you do not currently have. Every single dream, every plan I had, was being systematically dismantled and wrapped in red tape. The sheer absurdity of it all was overwhelming. I had traded one prison for another, slightly larger one. The bars weren't as close together, but they were there, invisible and unbreakable. She finally finished her laundry list of my failures as a new ranch owner. She handed me a thick packet of papers, a welcome packet, she called it, full of rules, regulations, and forms. The committee meets on the first Tuesday of every month. We expect to see your remediation plans on the agenda. Welcome to the neighborhood, she said with that same icy smile. Then she turned, marched back to her pristine SUV, and drove away, leaving another cloud of dust and my shattered dreams in her wake. I stood there for a long time, the packet of rules feeling heavier than a boulder in my hand. The sun was shining, the birds were still singing, but the silence no longer felt peaceful. It felt regulated. My sanctuary, my escape, my piece of freedom had come with an asterisk, and her name was Karen. The battle for my ranch had just begun. This is just the start of my story, my journey of navigating this bizarre, rural HOA. If you've ever felt trapped by rules and just wanted a little bit of freedom, maybe you'll know exactly how I feel. Be sure to subscribe and follow along to see what happens next. Will I fall in line, or will I fight for my right to have an ugly barn and unapproved tomatoes? Let me know in the comments if you've ever had a run-in with an HOA Karen. Thanks for watching. Deep into a story that's going to make your blood boil. It's a classic tale of moving into what you think is your dream home, only to have it turn into a bureaucratic nightmare. Grab your popcorn because this one is a doozy. So, picture this. You've finally done it. You've saved up, you've searched, and you've found the perfect little homestead. A few acres of land, a charming house, and the promise of peace and quiet. You sign the papers, the keys are in your hand, and you spend the first few weeks just soaking it all in. You're fixing up the place, planning your garden, maybe even thinking about getting a few chickens. Life is good. That's exactly where our story begins. After about a month of blissful country living, you get an unexpected visitor. A woman pulls up in a golf cart, clipboard in hand, with a look on her face that could curdle milk. She introduces herself as Karen, the president of the Homeowners Association. Now, you knew there was an HOA when you bought the place, but the seller and your realtor assured you it was a very relaxed, informal kind of thing, mostly just for maintaining the main road, or so you thought. Karen doesn't waste any time with pleasantries. She launches right into a speech telling you how happy the community is to have new blood, but that there are a few things that need to be addressed immediately. She then hands you a piece of paper. It's a bill, a very large bill. It's for several $1,000s in what she calls unpaid dues and fines. You're completely baffled. You've paid your first HOA fee, you made sure of it during closing. You tell her there must be some mistake, and that's when she drops the bomb. "Oh, no, dear," she says, with a sickly, sweet smile. "These aren't your dues. These are the old dues, from the previous owner." You stare at her, then back at the bill, trying to make sense of it. The previous owner? Why would you be responsible for their debt? You explain as calmly as you can that this has nothing to do with you. You bought the property free and clear. You went through a title company. If there were any outstanding liens or debts attached to the property, they would have been found and settled during closing. That's literally what title insurance is for. Karen just shakes her head, like you're a child who doesn't understand how the world works. "That's not how it works here," she insists. "In this community, the debt stays with the property. It doesn't matter who owns it. The property owes the money, and now you own the property. So you owe the money. It's one of the most absurd things you've ever heard. It defies all legal and logical sense." But she's not finished. She points to the bill again. "And this is just the beginning," she says. She starts listing off a series of so-called violations that are also contributing to the fines. First, she points to the charming split-rail fence that borders your front yard, the one you fell in love with when you first saw the listing. "That fence is not up to code," she declares. "It's supposed to be white vinyl, not rustic wood. That's a $500 fine right there." Then, her eyes narrow as she looks towards your small barn. "And I hear you're planning on getting chickens," she says, her voice dripping with disapproval. "Livestock is strictly prohibited. Each animal is a $1,000 initial fine, plus $50 a day until they are removed." Chickens. She's calling chickens livestock in a rural homesteading community. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife. But wait, there's more. She then gestures towards your house. You'd just spent a week giving it a fresh coat of paint, a lovely muted sage green that blends perfectly with the surrounding trees. "That color is not on the approved palette," she sniffs. "All houses must be beige, taupe, or greige. You'll have to repaint it immediately. And of course, there's a fine for that as well." At this point, you're just in a state of shock. This woman has come onto your property, presented you with a fraudulent bill for someone else's debt, and then proceeded to criticize and fine you for the very things that make your home. Your home. It feels like a shakedown, a blatant attempt to extort money from the new guy. You try to reason with her one more time. You pull out your phone and offer to call your real estate lawyer right then and there to clear things up. You explain that property debts, if they are legitimate liens, are recorded and handled at closing. Unrecorded debts or fines between a private organization and a former owner are a civil matter between those two parties. It doesn't legally transfer to the new owner. It's a fundamental principle of real estate law. Karen is completely unmoved. She taps her clipboard with a perfectly manicured nail. "I don't care what your lawyer says. Our community bylaws are very clear. The debt stays with the property. We have our own lawyers, and they're very good." She then gives you her final ultimatum. "You have 30 days to pay this amount in full and rectify all violations. If you don't, we will place a lien on your property and begin foreclosure proceedings. We've done it before, and we'll do it again. Welcome to the neighborhood." And with that, She turns on her heel, climbs back into her golf cart, and drives off, leaving you standing there in the middle of your dream-turned nightmare, holding a piece of paper that feels more like a ransom note than a bill. You're left with a choice. Do you give in to this ridiculous demand? Do you pay thousands of dollars you don't owe, repaint your beautiful house a boring shade of beige, and give up your dream of fresh eggs in the morning? Or do you stand your ground? Do you fight back against this HOA tyrant who seems to have appointed herself queen of the neighborhood? The threat of legal action is scary. The thought of a lien and foreclosure is terrifying. But the thought of caving to this kind of blatant bullying and extortion is infuriating. This isn't just about money or paint colors anymore. It's about a fundamental principle, the right to enjoy the property you legally and fairly purchased. So, what happens next? This is just the opening shot in what is about to become an all-out war. We're going to dive into every detail of this battle in the upcoming videos. We'll talk about the legal research, the letters from lawyers, the community meetings, and the discovery of just how deep this rabbit hole of HOA corruption goes. You won't believe the twists and turns this story takes. Karen has severely underestimated who she's dealing with. She thought she was shaking down another pushover, but she just picked a fight with someone who isn't afraid to stand up for what's right. Thank you so much for tuning in for the start of this saga. I'm really looking forward to sharing the rest of it with you. If you've ever had a crazy HOA story of your own, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and definitely subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss what happens next. Stay strong, and I'll see you in the next one. So, the showdown with my neighbor, let's call her Karen, just went to a whole new level. She dropped a bombshell, claiming a chunk of my land, the part with my beautiful old oak tree, is actually hers. My heart sank. Was she right? Had I been living a lie this whole time? I knew I couldn't just take her word for it. It was time to put on my detective hat and get to the bottom of this. Panicking wasn't an option. Facts were the only thing that would matter. First stop on my investigation train, my own filing cabinet. I dug out the most important documents for any homeowner, the deed and the title report. These aren't just fancy pieces of paper. They are the legal backbone of your property ownership. The deed is the official document that transferred the property to you, and the title report is a history of the property, showing who has owned it and if there are any claims against it. I spread them out on the kitchen table, my hands slightly shaking, and started reading every single line, looking for any mention of an easement, a boundary agreement, or anything that could give her claim some weight. After reviewing my documents, which showed the property was clearly mine, I needed to dig deeper. Karen was persistent, so I had to be thorough. The next step was to check the official county records. This is where all legal claims against a property, known as liens, are officially filed. You can usually do this online through your county clerk or recorder's office website, or by visiting them in person. I fired up my computer, navigated the slightly clunky government website, and searched my property address. I was looking for any liens, any judgments, any legal filings from her or a previous owner. I held my breath as the search results loaded. And then, the moment of truth. The screen refreshed and the result was nothing. Absolutely zero. No liens, no boundary disputes on file, no legal claims whatsoever. The county records confirmed what my own deed and title report suggested. The property line was exactly where I thought it was, and the oak tree was firmly on my side. The relief was immense. It felt like a massive weight had been lifted off my shoulders. All that anxiety, all that fear, it all started to melt away. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a legitimate legal dispute. This was a bluff, a classic intimidation tactic. Karen had no legal leg to stand on, and she was likely just hoping I would be too scared or too uninformed to check. She was banking on me just giving in to her demands. But now, armed with proof and official documentation, the tables had turned. I wasn't the scared homeowner anymore. I was the informed owner, ready to stand my ground. It just goes to show you, when in doubt, do your homework. Knowledge really is power. Thank you so much for watching and following along with my story. If you've ever dealt with a situation like this, let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more updates. See you next time. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. You are not going to believe what happened next. Just when I thought the dust had settled, Karen decided to make a grand re-entrance. And this time, she brought backup. We're talking about the full cavalry, the entire board of directors from the Homeowners Association. They all marched up to my front door, looking like they were ready for battle. Karen, with a smug look on her face, stepped forward. "We're here for the payment," she announced, as if she'd already won. "The board has authorized us to collect the outstanding fees, plus penalties." The board members behind her nodded grimly, their arms crossed. I could feel the pressure mounting, but I was ready for them. I just smiled, invited them into my living room, and told them I had something to show them. They all filed in, looking around like they were inspecting a crime scene. I let them get comfortable, then I walked over to my filing cabinet. I could hear Karen whispering to one of the board members, probably spinning her version of the story. I took a deep breath, pulled out a thick folder, and placed it right on the coffee table in front of them. "Here you go," I said calmly. "This is the deed to my property, along with the official title report." I opened the folder to the final page of the title report and slid it across the table. "As you can see," I explained, pointing to the relevant section, "the title is clean. There are no liens, no encumbrances, and no outstanding debts recorded against this property." I looked up and made eye contact with each board member. In the world of real estate and in the eyes of the law, if there is no lien filed against the property, there is no legally enforceable debt. Your internal records mean nothing without a proper lien. You could see the light bulbs going on above their heads. One of the board members picked up the document, his brow furrowed in concentration. He passed it to the woman next to him. A quiet murmur spread through the group. They started looking at Karen, their expressions shifting from solidarity to suspicion. One of them finally spoke up. "Karen, why wasn't a lien ever filed if this was such a serious issue?" Karen's face went from smug to beet red in seconds. She started sputtering. "Well, the paperwork, we were getting to it." But the damage was done. Her authority had evaporated. The board members were now looking at her with clear disappointment and frustration. She saw the tide had turned against her. Without another word, Karen grabbed her purse, shot me a fiery glare, and stormed out the door, slamming it behind her. The board members stayed for another minute, apologized for the misunderstanding, and left quietly. Victory. Well, folks, it's been a few weeks now since the big showdown with the HOA, and you won't believe what's happened. Or rather, what hasn't happened. Every single day I'd walk to the mailbox, half expecting to see some thick, official-looking envelope from a lawyer. You know, the kind that just screams, "You're in trouble." But day after day, nothing. Not a single letter, not a single email, not a single threatening notice taped to my gate. It was just quiet. The silence was almost deafening at first. I kept thinking, is this the calm before the storm? Are they building some massive case against me? But as 1 week turned into 2 and then 3, a beautiful realization started to sink in. They had backed down. There was no grand announcement, no formal apology. Of course not. HOAs don't work like that. It was a quiet, let's pretend this never happened kind of retreat. They just faded back into the background, probably hoping I'd forget the whole ordeal. Now let's talk about Karen. Oh, you know exactly who I'm talking about. I'll see her car from time to time, and it's like she's developed an allergy to my side of the street. If she's walking her dog and sees me out on the porch, she'll suddenly find something fascinating on the other side of the road and cross over. We haven't spoken a word, but the message is crystal clear. She knows. I know. We all know she lost. There's a sweet, silent victory in that, isn't there? So here I am, enjoying my morning coffee on the porch, looking out at my land. The only sounds are the birds chirping and the wind rustling through the trees. It's peaceful. This is exactly what I fought for. This is my little slice of heaven, free from baseless complaints and power-tripping neighbors. The ranch is finally, truly, mine to enjoy in peace. Just moved into your dream home? Congratulations. Then a letter arrives. It's from your homeowners association, the HOA, and it's not a welcome basket. It's a demand for hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars for violations that happened before you even owned the property. Your heart sinks. You think, do I really have to pay for the last owner's overgrown lawn or their unapproved fence? Let's clear this up right now. In most cases, the answer is a big, fat no. Many HOAs, and let's be honest, the neighborhood HOA Karen, thrive on intimidation. They count on new, unsuspecting homeowners like you to be scared into paying for things that are not your responsibility. They send aggressive letters, make threatening phone calls, and hope you'll just write a check to make them go away. Don't fall for it. Here is the golden rule. You are generally not liable for a previous owner's violations or unpaid dues unless there is an official lien recorded against the property. What's a lien? It's a legal claim filed with the county that basically says, this property owes money. If a lien existed before you bought the house, it should have been discovered during the title search process before you closed the deal. This is why checking your documents is so critical. Before you do anything else, pull out your title insurance policy and all the paperwork you received when you bought your home. Read through it carefully. Then, take it a step further and check your county's public records online. You can search for your property and see if any liens were ever filed by the HOA. If there's no lien, you're likely in the clear. So, when that scary letter arrives demanding you pay for a phantom violation from the past, don't panic. Calmly write back, state that you are the new owner and that you are not responsible for violations that occurred prior to your ownership, especially since no lien was recorded. Be firm, be polite, and stand your ground. You have the right to enjoy your new home without being bullied into paying for someone else's mistakes. Knowledge is your best defense against HOA overreach. Thanks for watching. If this helped you, give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more tips on navigating homeownership. See you next time.